Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Lloyd Edwards. I'm the owner of Raggy Charters for the last 20 years. We've been running marine eco cruises, and we use a lot of the funds from these marine eco tours to actually fund a conservation project. So my slides have all been put in a slideshow, so I can't go over my time limit. And I've never tried to do this before, so it's going to be like a race against trying to get all my information across while the slides are going. So if they can get them up, you can have a look at this piece of material here and see if you can think about what that is, and we'll discuss it during the talk. So that's my company, Raggy Charters. You can see there's a Humpback Whale there in front of Port Elizabeth, and there's also a map of Algoa Bay which shows our area of operation. If you can just go on to slideshow and just let them run every few seconds. All right, there we go. That's our area of operation. You can see there's St. Croix Penguin Island closer to the port, and you can see the Bird Island group, which is further east there. This is where the Portuguese came in 1488. They went all the way to Dyer's Cross, and obviously they were the first people ever to see penguins in the bay. There we go. All right, just as an introduction to marine mammals, that's a Masonichid. That is the forerunner to all the cetaceans that we get on the planet. Because as you know, about 65 million years ago, all the dinosaurs died out, and mammals started evolving very quickly, and they evolved from this animal. Then that evolved into what's known as an archaeocete. You can see the tails got bigger, and you can still see some vestigial limbs there, back limbs at the rear. And then from this animal, your two kinds of cetaceans evolved. That's where our main whales come from. They come from the southern oceans. That's their food source. And obviously, when it comes to giving birth, they need to swim to the South African coastline, which they leave there in around about April. And the first whales to come past, or one of the first whales, are the southern right whale. There's about 15 of them in the bay at the moment. Our boats are out there. And these were the right whales to hunt. They come very close inshore. They've got lots of baleen and, of course, lots of blubber, which was melted down. They're very acrobatic, often doing breaches. As you can see there, they've got these white callosities on their faces, and those were where they used to have hair on that part of their body. And they come into the bay to mate. As you can see, after swimming for 2,000 kilometers, the males don't take no for an answer. And here's a female trying to escape them, but eventually they push her back down again because she's trying to lie on the surface, or she moves into shallow water. And that's a whale's Minke, as you can see. Quite a prehensile thing. It moves around trying to find its way. We also call that Moby's Dick, by the way. You can see portals in the background. Every now and again, we get a white calf born. About 3% of all calves are born white, and they're usually all male. And when these calves start growing up, they become what is called brindled. So they get this gray color. And there you can see, right, that is a humpback whale. They come past here in June. And do their northern migration up to Mozambique, Madagascar, that area. They have their calves there, and they tend to come back around about October, November, and into December. They're called baleen whales, and their teeth look like this. This is a baleen from a humpback whale, and they basically filter their food through these hairs here, so the water runs out there, and all the plankton stays on the hairs, which they then use their tongue to swallow. This one in the picture, we were teaching to do backstroke in Port Elizabeth. This is between a swell. That's a humpback female with a calf. So we're in the trough, and they're actually up on the crest of the next wave. You can see there's one off Cape Recife. There's your university in the background, and doing that great leap like they do, probably for communication. Here's another whale. It's called a Brutus Whale. It's spelled Bride's Whale. They're the ones that are here all year round. They don't migrate, and they're associated with the sardine run. So that's what you normally get. If I say to the guests in the boat, there's a Brutus Whale, by the time they look, it's gone down. So very, very difficult to study. What we do is we try and photograph the dorsal fins, and we're trying to work out a population density and kind of seasonality. That's when they feed. That's the Rorqual effect. That whole part you see distending, that's its throat. So it can get a lot more sardines and anchovies into the mouth because they do have quite small mouths. That's just off sea view. That picture I call the eye of the eye. So you these common dolphins that have got the fish into a ball, and this guy comes up and he takes the whole lot. You can actually see his eye in the middle of the picture. This is a dwarf Minke whale. These are quite not very often seen. Quite a small whale, and they're the ones that are still hunted by the Japanese. And as you can see, they come very close inshore, also feeding on all your bait fish, anchovies, sardines, mackerel, that kind of stuff. Right, and then if you go from here 50 kilometers south to the continental shelf, you find those guys. Those are sperm whales, and that's the largest predator that's ever lived. This is a tooth from a sperm whale. So this tooth has been up and down to 2,000 meters under the sea quite a number of times, catching giant squid on which they feed. Before they go down, they kick their tail up, and off they go down, staying for up to 1.5, sometimes 2 hours. See how beautiful clear the water is. These are the killer whales, which are the largest member of the dolphin family. Any cetacean that gets over 4 meters in length gets called a whale. So it's actually a killer dolphin, but it is known as a killer whale. There's one that we took a photograph of, one of Schoenmaker's Kop, so a little bit out of the bay. You can see the males have got the very large dorsal fin, the sexual dimorphism. Females have got a smaller one. That one, you can see on his chest, he's got these marks, and that's probably from trying to beach himself to catch a seal, or maybe just scraping his tummy on the bottom. Very large pelvic fins. There's the female. You can see she's got a relatively short dorsal fin and also small pectoral fins. That one was intimidating us on the boat that day. Very scary things. These are the transient killer whales. So they move around. They're not like the ones in Norway that eat little things like herrings, and the ones in Canada that eat salmon. These are the real dudes, man. They eat mammals, they eat seals, they eat dolphins, what have you. There's one of your university. That's a male and a female. You see the Cape Recife lighthouse in the background there. They've also got that little under the dorsal fin. You'll see like a white patch. That's called a saddle, and that's also one of the ways in which we identify these animals. There, that was a bottlenose dolphin in the bottom left of the picture there, bottom right, sorry. One whack of the tail, and that dolphin was upside down, came up, and then it disappeared. So I think what they do is they skin the dolphin, spit out the bits they don't like, and swallow the rest. And then this is the one, a male. You can see Port Elizabeth in the background. I managed to get what we call a rain blow. Has anyone ever seen that picture before in Port Elizabeth? Have a look next time you go to the airport. Between departures and arrivals, we managed to somehow get it put up there. I think the files are quite big. This is a close relative. This is a pilot whale. I saw pilot whales off here in a school of about 200 once, about 10 kilometers off Cape Recife, the long-finned pilot whales. Also very closely related. That is the largest dolphin that is not called a whale. It's a Risso's dolphin, and they're also found out in the mouth of the bay. When the guys were doing the seismic surveys there, they were seeing them like on a weekly basis, lots of scars on it. Here's a common bottlenose dolphin. This is not like the ones that you see from the shore. It's a larger animal. It lives a little bit further offshore, and it's got quite a short rostrum and very chunky animal. You can see there's one with St. Croix Island in the background. Note the quite large dorsal fin in proportion to the body, but also in big schools. There they are at St. Croix Island. We call that area Lover's Lane. They come into that area, and there's a lot of mating and what have you going on. Then this is the guy that used to be, the ones that used to be in Baywell, the Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphin, very widespread. We're seeing these animals on 95% of our cruises. And it's quite amazing because students from this university, Ryan Rasinger, who's studying killer whales as well, they did mark recapture on these animals, and they worked out that the bay was used by 28,500 of these individuals. I mean, that's massive. And because of that, Dr. Pitchigu and I last year, we decided to launch Algoba as the Bottlenose Dolphin capital of the world. And before we did that, I went to the World Cetacean Alliance conference in the Azores, and I asked all the other whale watchers from around the world, NGOs, individual members, if anyone knew of so many dolphins in the bay, and nobody did have. There's the university in the background. I think you've probably seen that photograph on some of your brochures. The closest place to us to rival us as the Bottlenose Dolphin capital of the world is a place in Australia. They've got a bay that's frequented by 4,000 bottlenose dolphins for 6 months of the year, so we're way out ahead. There's another thing to show the people. So in that picture, you've got people looking at the dolphins, you've got people swimming, you've got landmarks, and that on our Facebook page went absolutely crazy because people love to be associated with these animals, and they love to show the place they live in. That's a guy also suddenly just leaping like that. I think you just have a good look at us. They looks like they're on steroids the way they. Normally they do that after the mate. There's a mother and a calf. You can see the calf's got a little birthmark on its face, and we've seen that on about 5 or 6 occasions since then. Shark attacks on dolphins, quite difficult to photograph. That's probably a great white or a Zambezi, and that actually they grab normally just behind the dorsal fin. That one was very lucky to get away. In fact, its mother had a huge piece of meat missing out of her eye, so she probably turned around and actually rammed that shark. Normally they go for the liver or for the gills. This is down the Alexandria dune fields, the most amazing backdrop there for dolphins. You see them, they actually surf down the front of the wave first, and then they turn around and shoot out the back. It's just quite nerve-wracking. That was one taken at sunset. You can see a nice little bit of water coming off his rostrum, a little bit of sunlight from behind, and you've got nice reflections of the water. And that was also at night. Cameras these days are amazing. You can up your ISO, your sensitivity to 6,400. In the old days it was 400, that was it. And that allows you to freeze the action in bad light conditions or low light conditions and get depth of field. That's at Woody Cape, the other end of the bay. Guy coming out, you can see the drone up there, so we've got all of this on drone footage, which is great. And there's another one also getting a bit closer down to Sundays River. Just beautiful to combine the two. So that was when we launched the Bottlenose Dolphin capital of the world with the Minister of Tourism, the CEO of Nelson Mandela Bay Tourism, and the CEO of East Cape Parks. Then we got these guys, the energetic people in the sea, the long-beak common dolphins. That's like perpetual motion. When you with a school of these animals between 1 and 3,000, you can see how close they come into the bay. When you see the water foaming and you see gannets following, this will be your common dolphins. They never stop. So from birth they go. This was them learning to fly, the evolution of flight. Maybe they end up back in the skies one day. This is when I took a BBC film crew out. They made an IMAX production on this. So you can imagine this wall of water with about 2,000 dolphins coming at you on a massive screen that was, I think, 40 meters long and 8 meters high. Then your humpback dolphins, they're the ones that you can often see in front of the pier, just to the right of the pier there in front of Happy Valley. They've got quite a lump on their back, and then the dorsal fin that actually comes out. As they get older, they turn this whiter color. You can see those white patches. So blue away. And then the not so glamorous animals, it's a subantarctic fur seal. We've got to keep the pinniped scientists happy. That was at Maitland's River. And that was an elephant seal that washed up on St. Croix Island quite a long way. They come from the subantarctic islands. Then, not to be outdone, there's two otters having a beer together. I'm not sure what they're doing with that, or it's a fantasy. And they were otter eating a perlemoen. And that's where their vestiges is. They stuck there on black rocks near Bird Island. There's 6,000 of them. It's the furthest east that they go. And on all the other islands in the bay, the British settlers killed them all in 1823. Right, what do we do with the money that we generate from our marine eco-cruises to be responsible? I started the Baywatch project 25 years ago. That's what we started. The marine tours were afterwards. Then we go to the schools. We take these images to the schools and we show the kids that are not as privileged as us, to be able to go out to sea. And I think everybody in this room is privileged to have this knowledge, and it's our duty to take this to the schools, to take it to the people that are not as privileged, and impart our knowledge to them as well, that they can also have an idea of what's happening in our bay. Those are the kind of little posters we get them to draw. We can't take 500 kids out to sea. We can take the 10 kids that do the best posters, that do something. Nothing for free here. So they do something, they get a free trip on the boat, and out we go to sea. And these guys come from the Limpopo. I've never advertised in the Limpopo province, but every year they get here. I don't know how they know, but they arrive on their buses, and we ferry them out to sea on our 2 catamarans. And for them, it's if you can take a child into the ocean and show them a dolphin, you've hooked that guy for life. You've got a conservationist. It just is like that. And then we also we built this research boat for my wife, and she does her penguin research for that. In fact, it's out this morning doing a fish survey. So we put a lot of money back into funding research. We've been helping guys over the years with the white shark research. Then also our carbon footprint. We're going out, we're using 100 liters of fuel, as is everybody in this room. So what we do, we've got 10 wetlands around the Eastern Cape. That's black wattle, which we've been ring barking. So we go in there with our weapons of mass destruction, which is a couple of machetes, a bit of poison, and we start ring barking these trees that are in wetlands, because wetlands are very important areas for biodiversity. This is the Colleen Glen wetland. Here we managed to get 50 members of the community involved, and they came in and we cut out the inkberries and the rooikraans and all of that. And then, of course, you've got to come in later and start planting trees. Every trip we do, we plant 1 tree. And I tell my tourists that come out from overseas, they need to plant 5 trees to offset their trip here by airline. And then we were walking on the beach one day, and I used to look at all this litter and think, it's impossible, there's too much. That's in seaweed, in front of that beautiful stromatolite that you saw earlier. I thought it was too much. So my wife started saying, no, we've got to try. And we tried, and eventually we started photographing this stuff, and we thought, this is all from the calamari industry. We went to the fishing industry and said, listen, this is your shit. What are you going to do about it? All right, and we've got funding from the South African Plastic Federation. We've got workshops planned where we actually take the cooks on those boats and get them to start recycling. And that's going to be an uphill battle, but at least we're trying to do something about it. And we also assisted with the setting up of the Algoa Bay Hope Spot. With Dr. Sylvia Earle, who's on the front page of the Time magazine this month. And great. And if you guys want to help with the beach cleanup, there's one going on Sunday, organized by the Hope Spot. So if the rain stops, please come and join us.